Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. So here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, we are working through a collection called The Stories of Ray Bradbury. There are 100 stories. We're up to number 42, which is The Man Upstairs from 1947. The way this is going to work, the way it always works, is that I give you a synopsis of the story, and then if you jump ahead to the end of the video, you'll hear my parting thoughts about what it all means and sort of how I rate it among the best of Bradbury's stories. So for the synopsis, an 11-year-old boy named Douglas lives in a boarding house run by his grandmother. Oddly, he likes watching her kill gut and stuffed chickens for dinner, and he sort of talks about the insides of the chicken, and he wonders, do we all look the same pretty much on the inside? And Grandma says, yeah, basically, but there's more guts inside you than the chicken, and it's a little bit more orderly than the chicken looks. But yeah, he likes the insides of living things. So one day, a Mr. Koberman comes in the front door and rents their upstairs room. He works by night, sleeps by day. He also eats with his own wooden cutlery instead of using the silver that is provided by the house. One morning, young Douglas is looking through a stained glass window and he sees something strange. He looks down and he sees Mr. Koberman walking home in the morning from his night's work with an umbrella. And he sort of imagines that through the red pane and the blue pane of the windows, he can see through the man, see through his insides, and it doesn't look like he thinks the insides of a man should look. Koberman, he was aware that the boy was watching him, so later in the day, the window was broken out, and of course Douglas is blamed for it, though he was nowhere near the window and he was playing in his sandbox in the backyard. We learn from Douglas's grandfather, who was a newspaper man, that there have been several strange deaths and disappearances, possibly murders in the area. A boarder named Mr. Britt suggests that maybe there is a vampire in town. The next day, while Mr. Koberman is sleeping, Douglas enters his room. He has shards of the window that he looked through to see the insides of the man. He also has with him one of his grandmother's butcher knives from the kitchen. He next appears in the kitchen. He's brought down pieces of the insides of Mr. Koberman, and he drops them down in the bowl on the counter, just like his grandma would put the guts of the chicken. But instead, it's Mr. Koberman's guts. Only they're shaped like boxes and chains and triangles and other strange shapes that grandma says she's never seen the like of, and she doesn't know what they came from. There is, or he tells grandmother that, you said that we all look basically the same on the inside, but apparently not Mr. Koberman, because this is what he looks like. There is talk of his grandfather taking him away from the horror of what is going on here, but Douglas says, I'm cool with it, I'm not scared. What's the big deal? I don't get it. The coroner arrives to find the body all neatly stitched up with the contents of Douglas's piggy bank, $6.60, all neatly sewed up, made of silver inside the man, Mr. Koberman. And he says that it is in fact the presence of these silver coins that killed Koberman, that he was in fact still alive while he was being cut up by young Douglas. So this is completely weird. Bradbury sets up multiple things here. The first is that this is probably going to be a monster story about a vampire, perhaps, who is allergic to silver, sleeps by day, doesn't like the sunlight, all those sort of tropes of the genre. But simultaneously, we see that young Douglas has the makings of a young serial killer. He could be, in fact, a psychopath. He expresses coldness towards death. He cuts a man open, removes his inside, and sews him back up after having sewn his piggy bank in on the inside. But this is Bradbury we're talking about here, not Clive Barker. So what turns out, Douglas's sense about Mr. Koberman was, in fact, correct. The whole thing that Bradbury does oftentimes where, kids see things that adults don't see or won't see in the world around them. He sort of spotted Mr. Koberman as being a monster, and he did something about it. I think, although I often complain about Bradbury leaving some stories too vague. I think this story, in fact, would have been better if he had left it vague, because I really wanted the gist of this story to be that Douglas killed a man but did not see his insides the way that the rest of the world should see his insides. He didn't see reality. That's how I wanted it to end. But the coroner, in fact, seems to indicate that the boy was right and Koberman was a monster. And I think that's a little bit disappointing of an ending for me. And it's for that reason that I think this story sort of has to go down a notch, sort of in the ranking of best Bradbury stories. I think it falls a little bit short, but boy, it does have the makings of a great tale. And I think you could see it being remade or adapted today, and it would be sort of as I described instead, where in fact the boy is a killer and he's delusional and irrational and doesn't see the world through the realistic lens. That he sort of with the window, the pieces of the stained glass window, he's sort of looking through the world through a different lens. And I think that was a perfect sort of metaphor, but I feel like the way Bradbury ends the story with that last paragraph really sort of makes it sort of come up short. So it's not among Bradbury's best, but boy, is it close. All right, guys, so that is The Man Upstairs by Ray Bradbury. Next time, we'll be discussing Touched with Fire from 1954. That was story number 43 of 100. So we are closing in on the halfway point in the stories of Ray Bradbury. So tune in again soon, and we will discuss Touched with Fire. See you later.